Hey, this is Quinn from Community and Company. My whole business is built around ghostwriting and helping subject matter experts share their deep domain knowledge and grow their audiences so that the people that listen to them, the people that read what they're putting out there, can get ahead of the curve and subscribe to their vision of how things are going to change. And what bigger trend is there than AI right now? I'm sure many of you know that I get to talk to a lot of interesting people through my work, and boy, do I have a big one for you today. So, I've been working on this AI Tsunami podcast. It's a monthly webinar with one of my favorite clients, David Beatty. And this whole webinar series is focused on talking to people building AI. Typically, it's for board directors and senior C suite people, but there's lots that anybody can take away from this. While organizing one of the webinars, I was able to sit down with Google's chief business strategist for AI, Gopi Kallayil. He's not just at Google, but has been all over the place working with organizations like Grameen Foundation, which is a South Asian organization that works on entrepreneurship and microfinancing. And what he has to say is super interesting. It shouldn't be missed. So, Gopi, we already know that AI is going to bring a lot of change. I think we're taking that as a default. I already know how I use AI in my day to day life, whether it's from driving on the road and traffic changing as a result of smart switches or using ChatGPT to figure out recipes for what I'm going to cook at night. As a marketer, it will affect how important different marketing channels are, like Google search, typing in an email. So how are organizations strategizing? Like, what does it practically look like? What are they trying to solve? How are they doing it? And how's this coming from your vantage point, working with a really large organization in AI, Google?
With companies, there are two aspects to it. One is how to help them grow, how to find the most valuable customers, bring them to use your product or service, retain them for the long term, and generate the highest lifetime value of the customer. So, for an airline, for a hotel, insurance company, retailer, doesn't matter, whatever category, how do you grow your business using AI powered tools? That's one aspect. The second is, besides marketing and acquiring customers, you have a lot of other operations that love you to be in the business you are in, and no matter what that business is. So when I met with the auto company, they have to think of automobile design or dealership operations or after parts service, after sales service. If it is an airline company, it is about meeting your needs every time you need to fly for personal reasons, business reasons, and might have other situations like traveling with family. How can AI help in the operations and make the company run more efficiently? So, specific example, we work with UPS. If UPS, their main part of the operations is get packages to the customers on time, accurately, not just on time, fast and accurately. So the right package is delivered to you and as soon as possible, which means there is a lot of logistics around trucks and which trucks goes on which routes, and if there's traffic, how to reroute them, and giving drivers dynamic information to manage all of this. So we changed the system, we made it AI powered, and they save now about $400 million just in gasoline alone, fuel, because we optimize it for each truck depending on what fuel it uses, which route it's going to, what the weather is in that route, etc. It's an AI powered tool. Just like AI powers Google Maps, the same technology was given to custom built for UPS to manage all the truck routing, an important part of the operation. Another example of that. This is all behind the scenes, but it makes a company more efficient. So if you are a fast fashion company, every season you ought to come up with new styles and garments and designs, etc. And there's an entire process around coming up with the design and working with the factories and getting the stuff into stores or online retail. How can that process be shortened where they test concepts out very quickly? So if it took 3 months to test a concept, can it be done in 13 days? Again, using AI tools, a lot of simulation, etc., can be run. Third example would be take a bank, and we did this for Hong Kong Bank, Hong Kong HSBC. They trade their own money. Their traders trade it. So if you're a trader and I'm a trader, we take HSBC's money and invest in various things. So we're taking risk on behalf of the bank. And you might analyze the risk of the 10 million euro, 100 million you're investing in. I may assess the risk, place the bank for the 200 million I've invested in. But collectively, worldwide, all the people who are trading on behalf of HSBC, what is the risk that the whole bank is on is something they have to calculate. Again, they had methods by which to do it, but now using AI, we run simulations much faster. So they can actually, before they place the bets for that day or that week, the AI model tells them and they can course correct it. So AI just makes the process faster and more accurate. So those are kind of examples that are non-marketing, non-business growth, behind the scenes.
Any nugget you could share specifically about board directors in making long-term strategic decisions around adopting artificial intelligence at the board level?
Yeah, yeah. I can talk about three areas. First is the board advising the management team on where exactly to deploy AI. Part of the thing that the board does besides governance is assume so that we give them a little guidance. So strategically directing the management team for that particular company in that particular industry, where will AI have the biggest impact, and giving them some guidance around it. And a lot of companies are jumping into it saying, oh, here's AI, it does amazing things, let's bring it to our company. Instead of flipping and saying, what is my strategy for 2024? To enable the strategy, how best can I use AI? That should really be the focus. And giving a little bit of that guidance before getting excited is one thing I would talk about. Second is the board can needs to ask the hard questions about governance. Things will go wrong, things will get derailed. What is the action plan when that happens? You could get dragged into controversy, issues around good AI, bad AI. So bound to happen. Any new technology, there's always bad actors out there. And when that happens, what is making sure that there is a plan in place to address it? So that's the board's responsibility to do that. And the third would be to bring in a outside in perspective. These board directors see the landscape at a much higher level, and they also are on other boards. They might have experience in other industries. They have their relationship with. They can act as the voice of outside in for these management, which tend to be very focused within the industry, within their company. Uh, so speaking to a colleague of mine, a board member, she's on the Disney board, and she was describing who else is on the board. She said the Nike CEO is on it, the Oracle CEO is on it, and the CEO of a retailer is on it. So there are so many different industries. They get to see the world from those perspectives, and bringing that in would be useful to the C-suite of the companies whose board they sit on. Outside in perspective, governance, and setting, guiding the strategy of where they should focus on, because AI can, you can invest in a number of different areas. It's much better to pick the specific things where it'll have the biggest impact on your business.
It's remarkable how ubiquitous it already is here as people think of these trends, that it's arrived, but it's been arriving maybe slightly quieter for a very long time. And how much the ubiquity is going to feel like it is normal very soon as well.
Yeah, it has been with us for 80 years now, because it's in 1962 the term AI was first coined at a conference in Dartmouth College by John Murray and Marvin Minsky. So as a concept, it's been there, but through 60s, 70s, 80s, it was derided. They tried it, they said it's not going to work. This whole concept of capturing human natural intelligence and bringing it into a computer is really not going to work. So it was even dismissed off. If in the 90s you're doing a PhD, 80s, 90s, and went into AI, most people thought you're a loser. PhD advisors would say, go find something else to do. AI is not the place to be. This is not going to work. So it's called the nuclear winter during that period. And people like Jeff Hinton, now considered the father of AI, soldiered along. A few people believed in it, but like when he presented a paper to Marvin Minsky, it was shredded apart. And you can read about all of that. In fact, Jeff Hinton left the United States and moved to Canada. That's why he became professor at University of Toronto. He was at Carnegie Mellon earlier, saying there is no hope. In the US, no one believes in it. I won't get funding. In Canada, at least there is some interest. So people even just fled the careers or fled countries to go work on this because they believed in it, and they were a small group of mavericks. So AI has been with us, and some AI areas worked. And starting in around 2000 or so, AI that does traffic signals and weather, the analytical AI, which mirrors the left side of a brain, started kicking in. And which is why, as early as 2016, Google said we are the AI first company. 2012, neural networks were proven to work at demos were done at Google by Jeff Hinton, who was working here at the time. But all of this stayed outside popular awareness and imagination. The tipping point was 2022 with ChatGPT. And the reason that happened, that is the browser moment for AI. The internet was around since the 80s and 90s, but it took the browser from Netscape for ordinary people to say, I can interact with the internet and I can book my air tickets. Now they understood it, what it can do. I can communicate and I can look up information using this thing called Google, which was started in 2000, sorry, 1998. 1994, the first browser was created at University of Urbana-Champaign. 1996, Netscape was born. People became aware. Amazon was born at the time. So people like, I can go to this thing on my computer and buy books and music. Those are the only two things available on Amazon at the time. And then 1998, Google came, and before that, there was Yahoo in 1996 also, I think. And people like, I can search for anything on the internet. So there's the tipping point that is needed. That tipping point happened in 2022 because of ChatGPT, when people said, I can go talk to this thing. It understands me no matter what I type, and it's giving me proper answers. So that's the reason it's become ubiquitous in that it shot up in awareness. Board directors and school teachers and government officials have become aware that AI is no longer some theoretical concept. It is in our life. And it is around that time when you said it is ubiquitous, it's become like electricity. We don't think of electricity too much, but right now, looking at you, I can see all the instances. Your computer's running on electricity. I see some lights. I don't know if it's real or in the picture, but that's electricity. And you're probably sitting in a warm room. That's electricity. I drove here in a car that was powered by electricity. And I warmed my tea here using electricity. So it's there completely in every aspect of our life. And we don't even notice it. It's become so ubiquitous. And if it was turned off for 8 minutes, everything would immediately shut down in this building I'm sitting in. Life would cease, and we would have to, and we would still be alive, but we would be doing things differently, or we'd stop working because my computer's not loading. I can't go up in the elevator. The kitchen would shut down. AI has become that kind of thing. And part of what is driving that is three factors shifted in the last few years. And I can explain that so they understand. The three factors that shifted is we now have the compute power to take the theoretical AI concept and actually make it run and operate. So that is one shift. We didn't have it before, but now with the GPUs, TPUs, etc., we can do that with the machine power to execute. Second is we need these computer science frameworks that enable these technologies to be deployed. So with the browser, the consumer internet, it was HTML. Someone came up with hypertext markup language, and Tim Berners-Lee came with a linked structure called World Wide Web, where I can look at an essay that's sitting on Quinn's computer, and he can link it to something I wrote on my computer. I can then link it to something that I have in the National Geographic database. So all of the information got linked. That link structure somebody had to come up with. And Tim Berners-Lee did, and HTML was created. Now we can create the internet. The same thing is happening in AI with the transformer architecture that came out of Google in 2017 and published in 2017. So ChatGPT could use the transformer architecture to build ChatGPT, and so is Cohere, and so is Anthropic. So the underlying theory was created. And the third, for AI to work, it needs vast amounts of data because it learns from that, whether it's machine learning or large language model. But the information has to be digital. We now have tons of stuff, and even more stuff is coming out in digital because every piece of human knowledge interaction is being recorded digitally, including this conversation. Right now, you're recording it, it's gone digital, which 10 years ago it could not. If you and I spoke, we would sit in a coffee shop and speak, and there would be no digital evidence. But now, my words, my expression, the lighting, everything is being captured uh, digital form, where now the model can go look at things like, in the first 6 minutes, Gopi mentioned LLM, and he then mentioned it 23 times in the conversation, and that word seems to be important to him. Right? So micro pieces of information like that can be taken out of this. So those three factors is what really is making it that ubiquitous, and therefore it is entering music, it's entering manufacturing, it's entering medicine, and every field of human endeavor can now be touched and transformed by AI.
What's your take on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? Like, to how I'm always curious about people who are deep into AI or like one emerging tech field and also are in the valley. What's your view on decentralization, these challenges with identity and sort of provenance, but also just Bitcoin as a hard asset?
I cashed in my last of my Bitcoin uh, last week. I might have like $5 or $10 left. 3 years ago, I was also quite caught up and intrigued by it and swept away. And the best way to learn about these things is to dive with both feet, and I move money into it because that forces me to then stay on top of it and learn and talk to people and all of that. I lost 60% of my money, and then I exited. A little bit is left in some small investment in Coinbase. Last of it is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Every time I need cash, I just go sell the last of it. I am done with my educational process, and I've come to my own conclusions. My conclusions are, it's conceptually, there is something to it, this whole notion, but personally, I don't believe it's an investment class I should be participating in at this point in time. So I'm selling, and if I'm not already, I've exited all of my dabbling investments in cryptocurrency from a personal perspective. From a career and professional perspective, if someone says, I want to go into blockchain and cryptocurrency, I personally would not go into it. I would dissuade others from going into it because the world is abundant with opportunities. There are plenty of other things you could be doing besides that field. If for some reason it drives your passion and the technology, and by all means go to it. But among a world of many choices, crypto is not the first thing that is screaming out to me. It's my own assessment. And I'm also not a good person to consult because most of these trends I am hopelessly wrong. I will admit to it, Quinn. So I'm not the best predictor, but I'll tell you what I know now or feel now based on exploration, education, and convictions. The third is, for the longest time with this whole blockchain concept. Cryptocurrency is one instance of blockchain. With blockchain, I struggle with interesting technology human imagination has created. What will we use it for? What good is it in practical terms? What problem will it solve? I don't understand. Yeah, I understand the structure. They try to explain the ledger and anyone can own it and it's completely visible to everyone, etc. That I understand. But how would you actually use it in a particular context like healthcare or manufacturing? I am not able to understand it fully. And I was on a train back from Davos. This is 2 years ago. There's a lady from IBM who led the blockchain effort. She had come to speak. So we had a long train ride. So I asked her, what is IBM using it or what are you deploying? And she tried to explain it in terms of manufacturing applications and supply chain. But I felt like we have solved that problem using other technologies. It works quite well now. If blockchain offers an advantage over that and will help us do even better, I am not able to understand and grasp it. It simply seemed to be a case, we have a piece of technology, we'll use it to solve it. So I have a hammer, therefore I'll go look for a nail and bang it down. And people are not explaining, using the same analogy, that I can decorate my room better with this different kind of hammer and nail. So that is my struggle with blockchain as a whole. Cryptocurrency, specifically as an instance, the larger issue became after I read BTX and the whole debacle. You should read Michael Lewis' book, Going Infinite. The madness of it all, the fact that someone can just, in this case, Sam Bankman-Fried, create a cryptocurrency out of thin air and then pocket billions of dollars just seems completely ridiculous and nonsensical when he didn't actually create a particular value. I can understand Sergey Brin being a billionaire because he created a method by which humans could go look up any information on the web when they're walking around on the street on a phone. Very useful for me. They created Google Maps that allows me to drive in Croatia from the airport to my Airbnb and arrive safe. I can see the utility, very value. They should be given another few $1 billion more for the value they created in all of our lives. But Sam Bankman-Fried, that I did not understand at all. I read the whole book. It seemed a complete scam. Bitcoin specifically, I struggle with even more, specifically Bitcoin. So if we narrow it down, is it has no utility. The only reason its price is going up is if I'm willing to buy it at 60,000 because I think Quinn will come and buy it at 70,000. It has no utility. Like gold. Gold just sits there. It's a precious metal. At least gold, you can use it a little bit in manufacturing, etc.
There's a lot of collective hallucinations that humans agree to that have value though. So my journey with crypto, I ran a tech conference in 2016. There was a Bitcoin panel. This was before one of the happenings. I went and joined a company that was actually the accelerator that launched Ethereum. So I worked for a co-founder of Ethereum, the first investor, and was sitting front and center during one of the big boom and bust, the ICO boom, exactly what you're talking about, fake contrived designed marketing schemes, and didn't quite understand it, but I did see the launch of NFTs, and I did see the launch of some other projects, very close for a period of time, but I did not fully buy in, and I left that space because I thought that there was more smoke than fire or something like that, or more smoke than fire. But since then my views evolved quite a bit. In this world, there are Bitcoin maxis, and then there are blockchain folks. There are people who are like just general decentralization folks. And I'm becoming even more of a Bitcoin maxi. And I was thinking about it the other day, in that all throughout history, you can find these commodities that look like they have no value, and there's abundance of them. So, say any of the mining minerals that are now powering our smartphones, it took years for us to refine oil for it to become truly valuable, and then it became a indispensable commodity. Is it so challenging to think that human ingenuity designed the architecture for a commodity that has scarce value, that is an internet, digital, highly trafficable commodity? And there's something there that I haven't quite worked through. And so I think I'm solving Bitcoin, the notion behind Bitcoin and why I believe in it, but not so much what I'm hoping blockchain might solve with generative AI. I'm very concerned about sort of the truthfulness of digital information in the age of AI and smart machines. And perhaps blockchain is a solution for that.
So I agree with the fact that hallucination-based value creation is a very valid concept in human condition. And especially, for someone like me, it totally makes sense. It's aligned with my philosophical beliefs. I'm Indian by origin. I was born there, and I have been raised in Hindu. Since you're a writer, you probably read widely, and you know this Hindu and Vedantic theories, which says all of the world is a giant illusion anyway. It's called Maya. It's a giant creation, and we lock our imagination into it. So that part, that through hallucinatory imagination, we can create value, and we all will accept the value, is totally makes sense. I mean, why else would we look at a piece of paper with a picture of a dead president on it and say, this is worth $100? What does it mean? And we agree that I'll give you this piece of paper and you will give me something else that I say is worth this $100, whatever that $100 means. And why I agree this $100 can trade for this much corn or food or jewelry. It's a giant hallucination we created. And that I've seen over and over again. Companies are very good at it. They've come up with, like, I was trying to get the Adidas metallic silver shoes because it's meeting with them. And it's called Wales Bonner. And It's not available. You can go to StockX, you have to pay $1,000 to get it. It's artificially created, hallucinatory. Because at the utility level, it's just a pair of shoes. It protects your feet, and they use a silver color, and they put a label on it, Wales Warner, and said we'll make only 1,000 units. And somehow they talked to create the hallucination. It is so valuable now. Everyone wants it because it's cool. It's limited, and the price has gone up on these secondary markets, right? And it's completely nonsensical. And yet people are willing to pay $1,000 for a pair of athletic shoes. And there is plenty of other shoes with the exact same quality and utility available for $86, and yet they'll pay $1,000. That's a hallucination. And so Bitcoin has that effect. So it is true. So you could make some money on it, but not guaranteed. That's why it's widely fluctuates, because the hallucination can change. I'd rather go to something more set and predictable and calculatable, which is what Warren Buffett does his investment thesis. I can buy an asset with the $1,000 instead of a Bitcoin, $1,000 of a company. In this case, he goes after things like Coca-Cola, etc., because I can calculate how many cans people will drink. Each can makes 1 cent. A 1/10 of 1 cent comes to the shareholder, and therefore I can roughly predict what is the value of that, the economic value, much more better than Bitcoin. So you could make money on Bitcoin, go rich, etc. But among all of the options available, I decided it's not an asset class I want to play it anymore. So at this point, I've withdrawn from it. I'm ending it. I could change my mind and go back to it if I have future alternate proof that's available that says I was wrong or more use cases come up. At this point, other than someone else will pay more for it, I have no utility based, productive asset based way of understanding the value of Bitcoin, and therefore willing to invest in it the way I have invested in a house that I live in. It's on the water. It's got a boat dock. It's right in the middle of Silicon Valley. It's right next to Oracle and Facebook and driving distance of Google. So I can put an economic value around it. There'll always be demand for it because it's a nice house and people who want to live there. I could sell it. I could rent it, right? So I can tie a story of economic value around it. And therefore, $1 million I put into the house, I can have some sense of how much it'll be worth 5, 10 years from now, barring unforeseen circumstances like a massive earthquake will make this place unlivable. But those are low probabilities. Bitcoin, I cannot construct a story like that that provides any degree of conviction. Investing in an AI stock gives me that conviction. If Anthropic were to go public tomorrow, I would say I'm going to invest because I can see the arc of where AI is going. I can't do the same with Bitcoin.